Turning off and invite. Is that how to invite Emma? Send request. Still need to change the session name. Now, I don't like it being inverted. How do I? No, that's not it. And that's flipping the camera. Okay, that is the back of my case. Oops. Flip. What does that button do? Looks like just a bunch of filters. How do you change the orientation of the camera? That's silent. That's weird. I should check that out. Yeah. Whatever. And it said Emma timed out, so we'll try that again. Do that again. I'm getting used to this still. Emma, join when you can and get ready to go. Hi.
Hi.
Is your hair okay? Sorry, I was.
Pardon me?
When you texted asking if we're good to go, I was just putting laundry away, and I'm like, holy shit, it's almost 7, right? So, still trying to figure out how to navigate Instagram, but here we are. Didn't, kind of like I told you this morning, I didn't want to amplify today's episode because of everything going on in our community regarding the just with the residential schools and the awareness about that. So while I feel it's important to carry on with this as a regular bit, I didn't feel it was appropriate to try to interject with, hey, if you're not watching anything at 7, come check this out type of stuff, right? Where if people who are already committed to jump in, cool, fantastic, and thanks for everyone who, whether they're watching now or if they're able to catch an episode later, that's great. But I didn't feel it was the right space to, like I said, just try to chime in. And it really, really, really stood out, especially this morning when you'd see on Twitter how there's like, like radio groups in town all working together to broadcast the same episodes, right? Of just raising awareness of the Indigenous community and just everything that's been going on. So, like I said, that it's pretty telling that it's an important thing happening, and like I said, that stuff like this is absolutely important too, which is why I'm continuing to do it. But I didn't feel it was the right space to just, be like, just in case you're looking for something else, let's get in here. So, but yeah, no, I can't believe it's 7 o'clock already. So time flies. I don't hear any feedback this time too, which is why I opted with headphones. So,
so did I.
I don't know if it was. Yeah, well,
yeah, that was
like,
my
because I don't know
mindset too.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but when I was listening to the replay, I heard that, and I don't know if it was just coincidental to the event or restarting my phone, but it is what it is. So I did the same thing as last time, turn comments off just because I don't like the noise and the busyness and whatnot, especially with the size of the screen, because again, I honestly thought it would be on a larger screen, but I digress. And we'll pick up where we left off. I'd like to figure out a good name for the for this series. That I don't want anything cliche, right? But we'll figure that out. And then for anybody listening, whether they're listening now or they're going to catch up on a replay, any questions you have, send by DM because I'm not going to be taking a look at it. Emma, you do have access to our account and you can take a look at it online at the same time while being on your phone, right? And that way Emma can handle any new questions just in case the grab bag starts to get thin, which as far as I can tell, it's not anytime in the near future. So that's fun.
All right. Do you
So,
want to just dig in?
may as well, right? Time's going to fly.
Okay.
I want to check with you really quickly compared to last time. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm much better. Update for everybody. Last time I was really sick after my vaccine on our last call. But pushed through, and I was really happy about how it went. And I also had a broken arm, still broken. So.
But no surgery necessary,
As
apparently.
far as we know, yeah.
So take care of it. I sent a picture of it earlier, and it was, I've used colorful for a lot of words before, and colorful is appropriate.
Yeah, there's quite a bruise.
Yeah.
So
You fell on the grass in blueberry pie, right? It was
pretty much that's what it's like.
You got a lot going on, so cool. All right, well, let's pick up where we left off. I'm excited knowing that there's a whole bunch of questions. Let me know if my air conditioner turns on and you can't hear it. I can turn it off otherwise, right? It's currently off right now, but just in case it pipes up and gets loud, just let me know. Cool.
Okay. So I have questions that I'm gonna kind of
waiting for you.
Combine. So who was the first person that you came out to? And then kind of on top of that, which person in your life was it most difficult to come out to, and why?
Wow. Okay. Good questions. When it comes to the first person to come out to, that's kind of a tough one because for my own safety, what I've done just over life is always just plant little nuggets of looking for feedback. And it doesn't always necessarily need to be nuggets directly related to being trans, but to just gauge that person's temperature, right? I guess is the right way to put it. How would they respond to this type of question or this type of whatever, right? And then figure that out. And even when it came to coming out myself, and so I'm going to answer that second question first. The toughest person for me to come out to was me. Because it was ridiculously difficult to come to terms with myself, right? To acknowledge my reality, right? And one of the largest challenges was, while also ignoring my own reality, I'd also be surrounded by a bunch of definitions that I never fit with. For example, I like to use language like pre-transition Taylor, because like when I refer to myself in a past life, because with so many different types of communities and the definitions that would come with them, right? Whether it's, I'll use cross-dressing as a good example. That is not my life, right? And I really had difficulty being affiliated with that word because there was more, right, than coming home from work and stripping clothes off and putting other clothes on, because that's the last thing that I did. That literally was the last thing that I did. I couldn't in my life just, go ahead and grab a blouse and wear it out of principle. And I understand that for others, that is something that is a connection for them. But because I also refused to allow myself to accept that I'm a trans woman, I got stuck in this. I don't know if you hear that. I'm just turning that off. Sports notifications. Hockey's on. But so like I said, there was dialogues of definitions that I would see, but the one that was the most accurate, I just couldn't believe it, because I wasn't ready to be like that. That's a life that I just can't involve myself in. And so that was the toughest part of coming out. After I came out, I'm fuck it, right? It's just like, whatever, here I am. Hey, by the way, I'm trans, right? Like, I'm not saying it was easy, right? But when I wrote the letter to work, when I wrote the letter to sports organizations that I've been part of for a long time, because I figured, right, like, you probably want these leagues to be like, hey, check your policies, because things are going to, right, I'm a good player, and someone's going to say something, right? But hitting send wasn't difficult. When it was all done, right, like, I knew I had to do it, and I knew I had to say it, and I knew I just had to it's part of life. I need to do those things. But still hitting send and be like, okay. And even in the past, there were people who were close to me while I would just be going through my own roller coaster of life, and I went through an incredibly difficult experience, and I shared with some people who were close friends of mine. And I explained to them why I was having such a difficult time with a certain moment in my life, and it came out to them too. And it wasn't difficult. It was just the fact of, this is something that I need to share. It's important to add context as to why this is difficult for me. So, no question, the most difficult person, right, or the toughest person it was to come out to was me, of just like fully accepting me. So who was the first person I came out to? That I don't know how to answer that in confidence, because they're all just different stages of life. When I would let people know that, I'm on HRT and whatnot, because I still, at those times, I didn't really have a battle plan, where I knew when I started HRT, it was because I got tired of not letting myself be authentic. And so I say it tongue in cheek, and I've said it lots of times before, right, where I was a miserable potato sitting in a corner office in a past life, and I figured, at least, right, if I was going to be miserable, I may as well be authentically miserable, right? And so I knew that going on HRT was just, it at least would allow me to be at peace with myself. But even then, I didn't really have much of a plan of coming out, because I knew one day, someday, right, that it would be like, yeah, you look a little different. I'm like, oh, you noticed too? Right? Like, it's, right? Like, there ends up having to be a point where it's like, okay, I can't fake it anymore. But that's not to say that I haven't shared with people parts of me in the past, without knowing where my future was going. And so I will say, I don't know if you can see it, but that's someone really important to me, and it was her who was the first person that I came out to and felt, and by coming out, I mean just allowing me out to just communicate more than Brad, and that was the first person that I felt safe with, and she was the first person who was excited, like it was authentic excitement for me, and like my name's inspired with her help. She's the first person who put me on the map, right, is probably a really good way to put it, right? That not the first person that I've ever told, right, that there was just something that was more than what met the eye, but she was absolutely the first person who I felt like I didn't have anything to lose by sharing that. So I hope that answers that question, because I certainly didn't have a calendar of here's who I need to tell and whatever, because like when it came to after I came out, it's like, oh, fuck it, there it is, right? Like, I didn't have a process of slowly telling whomever, right? Like, I told people in my personal level of priority, but I wasn't gonna tiptoe around any bullshit or anything like that. I was like, okay, I'm out, so I'm out. And so I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I know that that's really like private information about coming to terms with yourself and being honest with yourself to other people who might be watching who might be coming to some similar realizations. Um, I have some more like not so serious questions if we want to tackle those because as we've said
Cool,
before,
right? Like I said,
um,
it's a grab bag, so
yeah, like Taylor was we were talking about this earlier, is that like these questions are so important. One's about like your transgender nature as a whole, but it's also nice to hear stuff about your perspective just as a person who happens to be trans. Like it doesn't always have to be like serious questions, but like who did you come out to? What was the
yeah,
hardest
yeah,
part, you know?
yeah.
So the first one
Like it's funny. I
is
was thinking about that. Oh, sorry.
no, you
No,
go.
sorry. I think there's a delay going on, so I don't know if it's yours or mine. But I was just gonna say, like earlier today, I was thinking about that karaoke question, for example,
Yeah.
right? Like, right, and because I know I still have a commitment of crooning a lot of tunes, and I tripped over a list that I have of like 40 songs that I have to catch up on, right? And like they're more
Mhm.
than just Garth Brooks, but no, it's just yeah, it's just everyone's a people, right? So cool. But yeah, back to you there. Yeah, there is a delay though. Hopefully we can ride through this. Hmm? I don't know. Oh yeah, end of the month. Unlimited, but not super duper fast. For anyone who's in the U.S., welcome to our internet. Not like yours is that much better, but yeah, welcome to ours. I'm just gonna hang out here and drink my coffee, which is fine. In the meantime, let's see. I want to elaborate on that karaoke question just for fun because while I wait for Emma to get back, Emma left, and I will send her another invite, probably from a delay. Emma, there you are. Send a request. So while Emma's coming back in, what I did for a fundraising campaign for Run for Women is to help amplify contributions. I offered to share. Oh, hey, Emma. I'm just explaining the reason for the karaoke while you're frozen there. But I
Sorry.
offered a commitment aside from other things. Like I'm well, no, but like I'm going to be running a 10K event in a couple weeks with 40 pounds worth of weight vests on me as a challenge for achieving $2,200 of fundraising. And what I also did, because clearly the weight vest wasn't enough of a challenge, but to for people who are donating, I offer to sing using a karaoke app to sing songs, right, based on a dollar amount, and I'll post it online. I've done 2 songs already. Time's just wild, and I'm not going to lie that, you know, if we're at a pub or whatever, I'll sing a song calling it a night, but if I have a chance to be in control of what gets posted, I'm going to at least give a few efforts. Photograph absolutely destroyed me, like by Ed Sheeran. That was, I shouldn't even have, I shouldn't even have, like, shouldn't. Did Talk Dirty, or not Talk Dirty to me, Every Rose Has a Thorn, which is another staple go-to for me. It's also just kind of difficult because being in an apartment, I can't really just holler as much as I'd like. So I'm going a little slower than I'd prefer, but on deck is Kryptonite, and then, then the rest I'm just going to start going through my own selection because there's like I said, I've got a list of about 40, but I know I owe at least 30 songs because of donations. So it's exciting, just a lot of fucking work.
Holy
So,
smokes.
as we were,
It's a
now
lot.
that you're back. Yeah. Well, it's promise me, right?
Yeah. All right. So these
Okay.
are pretty
As
simple, but
you
would love to hear your opinion on them. Do
cool.
you prefer to read books or magazines?
I'm gonna say magazines because I like just the quickness of an article.
Right. Next question.
Oh yeah, sorry, I
Coffee or
could
tea?
embellish, but on that note, I am currently drinking coffee right now. I am fueled by coffee. This one I'll give a larger
I know that
example
answer.
for. I have I've been diagnosed with type 2 narcolepsy, which is a sleep disorder. The best way to explain it, or the way that I like to explain it, type 1 narcolepsy is the trope that many people are familiar with, where an individual will suffer like full muscle cataplexy, right, and they'll just fall asleep, right? And type 2 narcolepsy is perpetual daytime sleepiness is something you'll often see, but it's just always fucking tired. The best way that I've ever used as an analogy would be if you have a phone that's working perfectly fine and it's plugged into a charger or whatever, perfect, you don't even notice. But as soon as you take it off the charger because the battery's dead, you only get maybe, half an hour out of it instead of a full day's worth of work. And that's what type 2 narcolepsy is like. So I've got a prescription that I take every day to start my day, and then I usually have top up with the same prescription to get through the rest of the day, and that's it for the rest of my life, right? It's narcolepsy is there's no cure for that because it is not studied anywhere near as much as preferred, and a lot of the reason why it's not studied as much as preferred is because narcolepsy apparently, right, starts to develop largely at the teenage years. So, for anybody watching this who has a teenage child who appears to be sleepy, maybe they're not lazy, right? It's possible that they're lazy, but it's also entirely possible they're suffering from a sleep disorder, and it might be important to go get them tested, right? Because the results could help come to a solution for narcolepsy. So between coffee and tea, I love tea. I will gladly drink tea. However, herbal tea does not have caffeine in it. It doesn't matter what brand it is, right? Whatever it is, herbal tea does not have caffeine. Coffee, however, has lots of caffeine. and and just considering what my day-to-day is like, I need lots of that because I don't even care if it's hot or cold or tasty or yucky. Put it in my face so I can get through the hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as I've known Taylor,
I
she's
feel bad when people give me like
drinking
fancy
coffee.
brands of coffee. This is cold from this morning, right? Like it's just I brew a pot and it sits there because I don't even care what it tastes like and I feel bad. Like I can taste good coffee. I'm going to acknowledge that. Like if I'm going to have coffee for having coffee, I will want nice coffee, right? And appreciate the different flavors and whatever. But if I want coffee to stay the fuck awake, I really don't care what it is. Right? Just give it to me like now is my preference.
All right, so next question. Do you prefer Star Wars or Star Trek?
Funny that I actually have never fallen for both.
Mm-hmm.
But by nature, I like Star Trek. I remember when I was younger, I would watch The Next Generation, Picard, Data, right? Like, I don't know. I just, it was something I could watch, but I still didn't even watch it regularly. Star Wars, I don't know if I've ever actually seen an entire movie in full, right?
Wow,
Like,
that surprises me.
and to get stuff. Yeah, no, on it. Yeah, no, yeah. It's a lot of people seem to be surprised about it, but I don't think I've seen an entire movie in full. Um, yeah, definitely. So Star Trek, I suppose. I know I've seen Star Trek movies, right? Like I've seen. You've grown up. Sorry,
Oh, I was just saying I
grown
grew
up with
up
what?
watching watching Star Wars with my dad. So that's just why I would naturally
Oh, okay.
lean towards that, is just because that's what I grew up with, you know?
Yeah. I feel like I'm missing out. Let's put it that way. But what I do know, the only reason why I haven't caught up with it is I know definitely not to say that I don't respect either franchise, because both are stellar, pardon the pun, in their influence. But I do know if I wanted to catch up, I'm good with that. But I know if I wanted to catch up with Star Wars, it is a commitment, right? Like, it's people think Lord of the Rings is just lots to catch up on. Like Star Wars, from whatever you define as episode 1, is already lots. So, but I would watch it. I just haven't been married to either.
All right. Well, I have another movie-related question for you.
Cool.
Are Marvel movies overrated?
I really like the Marvel movies because I was able to fall into them and just enjoy them as superhero movies. Excuse me. Excuse me. Without getting too deep into it, would I ever call them a cinematic masterpiece? No. And so I think people need to temper, right? I think people need to temper that, right? When they chuck all the accolades about how amazeballs whatever is, I don't think it's there. But it fits its responsibility of having shit blow up on a screen for 3 hours over the course of a decade. Right? It suits its role well. I personally, I enjoy how, at least in the all the way up to Endgame, I appreciated how so many things got tied together. I liked that. That was nice, right? Because it felt like reading a book, right? Says the magazine person, right? But it was like you read 21 chapters of, right? You read 21 chapters of a book, and Endgame's like cleaning everything up. And it was cool. To me, that was super cool. But I would never be like, yeah, the world's greatest CGI, the plot depth was stellar. No, right? Like, they rode the wave very, very well, right? So they didn't have to do more than what their branding already was taking care of. So when it comes to being overrated, for people who disregard that and keep floating, that's too much.
I like how in-depth your answer was for that one.
Well, but it's like, seriously, it's like saying, like, what's your favorite burger, right? The one from McDonald's or the one from A&W, right? Like, personally, I'll prefer the A&W burger in the first place, but, like, you'll get other independent shops with absolutely gorgeous plates, but, like, the branding of the other ones already take care of their popularity, right? And just bring them to the top of the discussion without realizing how many other quality products actually exist.
All right. Do you want to do one more question?
A&W now.
It's 7:26.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a question that I have.
Time
for
flew
you
by.
that I've
got time for.
I know.
I've got time for a little more if you do too, right? Just because of how things stalled. But I'll leave it up to you since you're hosting. Yeah, I'm good with that. Right,
my question for you is, how has your experience on HRT been?
Wow. I was thinking about that the other day, actually.
Okay, wait. Just a quick. You should disclose what exactly HRT is.
Yes. So HRT is hormone replacement therapy, and what that is, if the name itself doesn't explain enough, there are typically 2, sometimes more, medications that are prescribed for a trans individual, and one would come in the form of a blocker, right, which would go ahead and that it would, it would stop, right, testosterone or estrogen from attaching itself to body parts, cells, whatever, right? And then the other would be whether it's like estrogen or testosterone for the appropriate rightness of the body. I wanted to point out too when it comes to the blocker, and this is an incredibly nuanced thing that a lot of people tend to either ignore or aren't aware of. A blocker is not an eliminator. And what I mean is this. So, full disclosure, I still got my bits and pieces. I'm in no rush to do any major surgeries. Well, whatever, right? Like, right?
No,
but
the point of the video.
Right? But the and that's also like I personally like I've got a referral for what's the full word? Orky for short. But anyway, right, to get rid of the boys. I'm in no rush for anything else, right? Like that's an absolutely major commitment to do, and frankly, I like what I got. I got big shoes, right? And right, so whatever, right? I'm proud of me, right? But the difference when it comes to the blocker, right now, like I said, I've got full set of equipment, and I have a prescription to stop the effect of the production of testosterone. What that does not do is eliminate testosterone from my blood, right? Because production is still happening. And that's why I'm opting for an Orky, right? Because then that stops, you turn the factory off, right? And then I don't have to take a prescription for a blocker anymore. However, what the blocker does is, I wish I can remember all the words for it, but anyway, when it comes to hormones, right, like testosterone and estrogen, right, there are receptors, right, on whatever body parts receive the receptors, right, but those stop, like, the wrong hormone from getting connected, which then allow the others, and then, so then it'll, like, testosterone still float around or whatever, but it's useless because it's not connecting to anything. My levels, when I was, I had blood work from clinic not too long ago, and I had a phone call, I think 2 weeks back or something like that, but like my testosterone levels are like nil. They're essentially the equivalent of what a cis female would be because the blockers are just blocking.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, and so that's like the holy grail for what a lot of people want to hear. It takes time to kind of get there because you just don't want to turn everything to 11 right away, right? But and then otherwise, when it comes to the feminizing hormones, they're in like the exact level they're supposed to be with what will be considered for cis female, and so on and so on and so on. So everything's working perfectly fine. And like I said, for me, that I'm just opting for an Orky because I don't need them. I'm not having kids, not interested in having kids, no rush to have kids. And honestly, even if I wanted to have kids, the probability of that happening incredibly low. So because every day you're on, factory works less and less and less. So anyway, so hormone replacement therapy is that, and the reason, like I said, why I wanted to have that little anecdotal discussion is because myself, I'm very passionate about sports, right? And there's always a discussion about trans athletes in sports too, and there's always this discussion about how much testosterone is in the blood, right? But that's actually an incredibly useless value because testosterone in the blood is not indicative of testosterone that's actually related to the production of the body, or like the function of the body, I should say, right? Right. Because of what blockers do, right? It literally is floating around until it gets metabolized or whatever else happens. So anyway, how's HRT been? It will forever be a trip. I know that when I started HRT, it was, excuse me, I wasn't as excited when I started because, excuse me, hiccups, coffee hiccups. That's what happens when you have coffee at 7:30. But whatever. I wasn't as excited as, in hindsight, that I should have been. But again, I still just wasn't excited about life. I just knew it was something I had to do. But I would just take HRT, right? Take my meds and call it a night. And it was interesting, just not necessarily observing things directly, but after time recognizing things later, right? Where like, for example, I've always been pretty meticulous about stuff like body hair and whatever anyway, right? But after time to notice that, yeah, no, absolutely, it's thinned out my, the leg and body hair. And actually, it's funny the other way around too, because like my hair is so much more full and everything now too, like, right? Because that with HRT, one of the benefits is that it actually thickens your hair, right? Which is cool.
Interesting.
So
Didn't know that.
it's as long as hair follicles aren't dead, right? Then it like is dead hair follicles on any human being. It's a dead hair follicle. But just by the nature of how estrogen works, or whatever, right? It thickens. So it's kind of like takes the thickness from the rest of the body and puts it up top. I've 100% noticed the scale. I like when I because I still hop on the scale every day, and I still like to say I take care of myself well, and I think I prove it. But I know that in a past life, right, I would just hop on the scale, and it would be very standard, right, a very easy slope of understanding. Okay, here's your weight for the day, even though I'm eating regular, right, and same habits and whatever, and you hit the scale at the same time in the morning, ish, right, whatever, and so it's pretty standard. But now it's like a fucking roller coaster every single day, right? I was joking with a friend of mine the other day that I gained 7 pounds in a day, and I swear I only ate an orange, right? Right? Like, how do you gain 7 pounds from one piece of fruit's beyond me? But okay, fine, I get it. Then emotions are absolutely something that I try to be mindful of when it comes to HRT, because one thing that needs to be recognized is being on HRT is essentially puberty 2.0. So it was said best by a friend of mine when we were discussing HRT as well, that you have the logic brain of an adult, right? Like a logic brain of a 40-year-old, and then it's the emotional sensitivity of somebody going through puberty, right? And so that is that's coming back. So that's something that's really interesting when it comes to HRT as well. I don't know if you just heard that last part. I was just talking about the emotions when it comes to HRT, right? Where because it's like I said, I don't know if you heard it before you left or not, right? But it's puberty 2.0, right? Is a really good way to acknowledge what HRT is like, because it is. And so you have the logic of somebody with life experience of however old you are, but then you have the emotional sensitivity of somebody going through puberty.
Oh my
so
gosh.
I've noticed that, right? Yeah, it's a thing, right? And so I always. I'm always mindful about that, and it's funny too. Even when it comes to being mindful about myself and how HRT affects me, is honestly even when it comes to periods, right? That trans women can have periods too, just not like all the fun stuff. And fun said tongue in cheek. I'm not gonna lie, right? I'm not missing that, but when it comes to how your body feels, how you emotionally respond to certain situations, right? Like there's certain weeks, right, that are definitely different than others. And so for myself, sometimes I reflect on a date or a time or an event or something, and be like, hey, what's like talk to myself, like what happened, right? Like whatever it is. So that's like 100% a thing. Cold all the time, and then I'm hot all the time. So that's another thing that I haven't experienced before, right? Like I've never lived beside a blanket before, right? Like I've never had to always just be within arm. And that largely is because of fat distribution or redistribution, because with testosterone-based bodies, that fat or fat distribution is typically straight to the abdomen, typically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with estrogen-based bodies, that fat distribution, big surprise, hips and thighs, right? Of course, the boobs and then cheeks, and then the skin, evenly, essentially, right? And so the skin is thinner with just a little more fat underneath. And so, of course, that affects temperature sensitivity and whatnot, too. But yeah, it's that's been a thing. I can go even deeper, right? Like I talked earlier about the factory that's shut down. Like my even for myself when it comes to intimacy, I've always been incredibly particular about just partners to spend time with in the first place. I've never been one to just what did I say the other day to a friend of mine? Freelance. I've always been right. And a lot of it was, of course, just being closeted, right? Of like looking for a safe space, right? Wondering if someone I'm going to be vulnerable with is going to like, can I trust them? So I never let just random people into my life, but I'd still, still have a good time. And now my libido is so low, you need a shovel to find it. And and I'm sure a lot of that has to do with HRT. I can actually say with full confidence a lot of it does. There's no surprise that that testosterone and estrogen affect libido in different ways, but that's not to say that I still can't get aroused, right? But a lot of me being aroused has to do with my partner and my situation, not the physical bit around it. So that, and I don't actively date. I don't look for like my connections are organic, right? Because I feel the trust from there. It starts there, and especially when it comes to COVID and whatnot, right? Like I haven't, bumped into anyone and had that click and that spark to do anything since. Kind of like we talked about before. It's been a while since I had a meaningful hug and kiss, right? Let alone anything else, but whatever, such is life. And I also accept that because with what I do, I'm happy, right? Like I'm happy doing what I do compared to a past life where I would sit and lament wondering why I couldn't have everlasting love. Now I'm like, fuck it, whatever. I'm doing my thing. And if someone can keep up, great.
Right.
Challenge you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even then, where like I said, that I don't think about it. Don't wake up, craving anything or whatever, right? So that's absolutely been affected by HRT. It's a lot of stuff, right? A lot of little nuanced things. It's not like you take a couple pills and all of a sudden, boom, boobies. And even then, if it was, right, if I didn't run to the treadmill every single time I had a chocolate-covered jujube, right, I said it to a couple friends over a couple instances. I'd probably up at least one cup size if I didn't fucking work out every time that I ate something. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
just
true.
give it a chance for some distribution. But I'm athletic. I know my body shape is athletic, and I'm perfectly fine with that. So, right. But yeah, no, HRT's it's affected lots of little nuances and lots of little ways, and I would start with emotions easily. It just sucks too because it's tough to to pinpoint, right? That's that's emotions because of HRT as opposed to that
Right.
those are emotions because of coping with the situation. So, but no, 100%. That's how's my experience? Fucking great, right? Because here I am. I'm real, right?
Yeah.
And like, and sorry, I'll even keep tailing on this because it's not a 2-second answer. Like, even when I'd have follow-up calls from clinic, right? And the nurse would be asking how I'm doing. I'm like, I'm great. Everything's great. I have nothing to complain for because, like, everybody's DNA has a blueprint, right? And so, like, HRT is unlocking my blueprint. I don't have goals or expectations of what to look or sound or feel or whatever, right? Because that's already determined. And so HRT is simply unlocking me. And so, right, how am I? I'm like, I don't know, I'm fucking top of the world. You tell me how I am. You're the doctor, right? Like I can't argue anything. I remember last year, right, though, when if I could suggest anything, right, I'm full time, right? So summer's coming soon, so crank everything up. Right? But like that's it. Like I'm great. HRT's been the greatest, probably the greatest thing that I've experienced in my life. And it's funny, it's not even like an isolated experience. It's just like knowing that it's part of my life, and it's something I don't think I could ever imagine myself without.
Wow, that's amazing.
Hope that answers that.
I think that's a really, yeah, that was a great answer. Because honestly, I've never really heard anybody's personal experience with HRT, and I have limited knowledge about it to begin with, and so I was very curious to see what you had to say, and a lot of it makes sense, like some of those things I kind of predicted on my own, but I mean, it sounds challenging, but it sounds really rewarding, and I'm so grateful that we live in a place where it's available to you,
Yeah. I feel for like that, you hit the nail on the head right there. I'm so grateful that for me, it's like I got my benefits through work and whatever, and go get my meds, prescriptions covered, call it a night, and think nothing of it. And that's it. Like, even HRT aside, right? Like, benefit of health covered, like laser hair removal, even like if I opted for it, right? Like voice, speech language pathology and whatnot, that would have been covered too. I'm grateful that those are around me, right? And to know that it's not as easy for other trans individuals is just, I can't put words to it, because like it ain't right. It ain't right. So it ain't right for it not to be available. Right? Like it's life saving. It's life saving.
I mean,
right? 100%. I don't know how else to describe it. It's life saving.
Yeah, there's no arguing with that.
I never, like, here, like, content warning, I'm not going to use wrong words, right? I never had the courage to do anything bad, but I never wanted to wake up. I had no purpose for the next day. I had no, like, what's the point? What's the point of the day? Wake up, work, do nothing, go back to bed miserable, and repeat. That was my day. And now, like 3 in the morning, I jump out of bed because I got shit to do.
Yeah. I get text from Taylor at all times of the day.
I lose, like, and I don't know what time it is. It's not that I don't know what time it is, but it's just like, I have an idea. But like, it's life-saving. It's life-creating. It's, I don't know.
I mean, I think we have a long way to go in terms of like what exactly is available to you and a billion other things, but I think it's absolutely important to acknowledge our privilege, especially in Canada and in Manitoba, that these things are available. But I'm so grateful for you as like a close friend of mine to know that you have those things available to you. It makes me happy, and I know that a lot of people would agree with me. So
I'm happy to hear that. I'd love to say the same thing in return, but I'm going to throw shade saying you live close to a hospital, but you had to go to the other end of the city to get your arm looked at.
Oh my God.
Walking distance from a hospital. That's like, no, we don't do.
You have to drive 20 minutes.
Yeah. We only deal with broken legs, not broken arms. So sorry.
Pretty much. Yeah.
It's not a perfect system.
No, it really isn't. And I'm gonna I'm gonna call out Pallister right now on his live video.
Yeah, yeah,
Screw you. You suck.
yeah. I'll second
You
that.
ruined
I'll second that.
healthcare
Right.
in
I'll
Manitoba.
second.
This has just turned into a bashing of BP.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now it's personal, right? Everything was just sympathetic before, but now you broke your arm. I was like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. Now I'm gonna start
Oh,
advocating. You know, this is unacceptable.
yeah, 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 yeah. Why? Because I can't even write. So that's
Yeah.
yeah. No, I, I'm so grateful that when I wanted to start, and wanted isn't even the right word, but just knowing that it was something I needed to do was call clinic and just get the ball rolling. Had a couple phone calls, or not even phone calls. It was back in a past life where you're allowed to see people in person.
Wow.
But to ages ago, right? You were just a thought. But like showed up and had a couple discussions and okay, let's get you going. Right? What do you want? I don't fucking know. Just push me through doors.
Yeah.
And here we are. So it's we've got 10 minutes to go to the hour, so if you want we can just finish this off at 8. Like I know it's longer than I
Sure.
expected,
Yeah, let's
but
do that.
some of these questions were like longer, right? And
Yeah.
but they were meaningful.
Well, I have one that kind of entertained me. What is your position on monetary policy in Greece?
Oh man. You know what? That's one thing that what a fucking tire fire that was. Is the only position really when it comes to Greece and its economy is they need to get rid of, or they need to acknowledge what's the word I'm looking for? Tax fraud. That like when it comes to anything about any policies they have regarding the economy, monetary policies, and so on, they can do everything and then some to go ahead and try to save the day. But until they acknowledge the amount of rampant tax fraud that causes all the chaos to happen, position of anything doesn't matter, right? That's one thing I do remember when I was reading about, because when was that? It was like it's still ongoing, right? But it was a few years ago that Greece was like, cool, I have negative net worth and still probably have more than Greece. That's usually not normal for countries, but okay, right? Like, sure, I could technically go buy Greece right now. And you shouldn't really be able to do that with countries. So I was doing a little bit of reading and found that's tax fraud. Yeah, kind of have to address that before anything else. So, why does that interest you?
I just thought it was like a really funny question to ask on a live video. I don't know, like a lot of the like earlier questions are from the same person, and it was just like Star Trek and Marvel and books or magazines, and it was just what is your position on monetary policy in Greece? I don't know. It was a curveball.
Yeah, it's true though. I like that. That's awesome, right? Cats or dogs, coffee or tea, right? You blah blah blah, right? What's your stance on very important crisis in the climate?
Yeah.
Shit's hot.
And then the next question after that is if you had to 10 items you couldn't live without on a desert island. 10 is a lot.
You're breaking up, so if I had to choose.
If you had to choose, what would 10 items you couldn't live without on a desert island be? But 10 is a lot.
Okay,
let's limit that to like 3.
Okay. Here, okay. It's funny, like now I'm trying to think of 10, but I'll start with 3. I'm going to assume there's no electricity, right? So I'm not going to do any of that. Oh, I need my phone or whatever. I'm going to the very first thing I can think of, there's a blanket that I have. It's a Jets blanket that was given to me as a gift. And if I was to find my way on an island, I'd probably be traveling, and if I was traveling, that blanket would be with me in the first place, so that would be number one. If I was going to be on an island, actually, you know what? I'll add another blanket. I think I might be able to get to 10. Right, but let's see what I can do. This blanket, this blanket. I don't know what this material is. Is this polyester? You can't feel it, obviously, but I think these are polyester blankets. I think, but I've always just enjoyed this type of end, right, and how it like gets super cold sometimes, right, while the rest of the blanket stays warm. So, and plus, if I'm stuck on an island, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some weather or whatnot, and if this is polyester, that'd be really helpful, right? So that. I've got a really nice hatchet. What?
That's not something I have.
I like to camp. So I have a really nice hatchet. So that definitely would come for the ride. And I'm going to assume that a sharpening stone for that counts as a separate item. So that for sure. I'd like to consider that to at least be some sort of survival-ish. So I am a princess, right? So I'm at least one brush. Just because, right, to feel some sort of like I'm almost ready to go on cam. But no, otherwise, a blanket, another blanket, a hatchet, everything else I'd like to believe I could kind of put together based on the island. I've always thought I can do the Survivor, right? Like, I don't know if I can do anything like Bear Grylls, right? But I'd like to imagine that I'm crafty enough to be able to make sense of the situation, right? And be able to go from there. So, yeah, no, I honestly can't even think of getting up to 10, right? Because that, like I said, that, like, most of everything that I have is, they're just things. I don't need them. I have them. You were breaking up there. I was just trying to dwell on my, other stuff that I have that I couldn't bring because, like, I'm going to exclude the idea of electricity, right? So, pretty much take out everything. But otherwise, like, everything else, like I was kind of saying, I think you were gone at the time. I'd like to think that I'm crafty enough to make sense of a situation. Don't know if I can ever do like the hardcore survivors, right? But I'd like to think that I'd give it a fighting chance. I don't know, just it's kind of been my MO. Just make do with what's around you, right? And I'm also the type of person who, and honestly, especially ever since I came out, and even before that, right? But I have gratitude, period. I can, like, if I was stuck on an island, I'd be not grateful of being on an island alone, but at least I can be grateful for being surrounded by stuff to survive with, if that makes sense. So I don't have a lot of passion for certain things that I have to take with me because I don't need whatever to carry on. But like I said, I certainly would take some things that are sentimental if I knew that I was going to get stuck on an island, and practical. And so, right, hatchet, right, blanket for weather, and then, like I said, a blanket for comfort. And Emma's having trouble with the internet again, so I'm going to let her back in one more time, and then we'll just wrap it up, right? Because it's getting close to 8 o'clock anyway, right? And I'm struggling trying to think of the rest because everything else, like I said, would just expire anyway, right? Whether it was going to be like a coloring book, right? Like it's only going to last so long until I'm all out, and then I can just draw in the sand.